The reason why Kyle Hunter not on today's show is that right now we only have odds out there for the Big South Conference Tournament and the Atlantic Sun Conference Tournament. We talked about the A-Sun on Friday, so if you missed that segment, you definitely want to go and check that one out as that conference tournament starts tonight. But we're hoping that by tomorrow we'll have some more odds out for some of the other conference tournaments. So that's why we pushed Kyle back Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. We'll be able to talk Big South still because those games start late tomorrow. But hopefully we'll get some odds out for some of the other conference tournaments that do start this week. Again, back-to-back segments. 13 conference tournaments start this week, including the A-Sun, which we already talked about. So that would be 12. 6 will come your way on Tuesday. 6 will come your way on Wednesday, unless we don't have odds, in which case, we'll try to do the best that we can. But we'll have Kyle Hunter here on Tuesday and Wednesday this week. Rolf Michaels will start off tomorrow's show. And, of course, Brian Blessing here on today's show. So that'll be what you have to look forward to here this week. I just want to let you know that here at the top of the program. Hopefully you listen to all the shows and all the segments and all the guests. But if you are looking for Kyle Hunter, you'll hear him on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. Over at BangTheBook.com, we are your one-stop shop for sports betting news and information. Very exciting day over there today. As conference tournament odds get posted, I will keep posting our conference tournament previews. In fact, I just got the Big South up right before the show. But also this afternoon, along with my preview of the Arnold Palmer Invitational at Bay Hill, I'll be putting up my Major League Baseball betting guide in article form. Now, we will have a full PDF document and a Kindle ebook of my MLB betting guide with my 30-season win total previews, and then also my division futures, pennant futures, World Series futures, Cy Young, MVP, and Home Run King futures. All of that will be in one PDF and also in that ebook. But today I'll start posting those in article form over at BangTheBook.com, so you can check those out if you don't want to wait any longer. We're still waiting on the formatting of the ebook and the PDF from our SEO company and the people that are helping us out with that. But I want to get that. I want to start getting that posted. The season just 24 days away now, so I will start posting that over at BangTheBook.com. So while you're over there checking out Kyle Hunter's daily college basketball piece, Parker Michaels' daily NHL picks piece, all of our daily NBA and college basketball content, as well as our weekly content like soccer, golf, tennis, UFC, etc., you'll start to get my Major League Baseball stuff. So very excited about that. It has been a very, very busy time, to say the least. But as I've been feeling better, I've got my mojo back. I'm back to being my high-volume self. So really getting a lot of stuff done here in a short amount of time, and you'll find it all over at BangTheBook.com. As you know, this and every edition of Bang the Book Radio, presented by our friends over at DSI Sportsbook. BTB200 is that promo code. 100% deposit match bonus for the Sportsbook. 100% deposit match bonus for the live casino at BetDSI. It's only a game until you bet it. Very, very busy time of year here, obviously. And again, switching things up a little bit with the guests. Probably going to forget what day it is a few different times here throughout the week. But one thing I know for sure is that it is Monday. That means the Monday Mailbag. So I got some listener questions here to chat about on today's show. And, of course, you can always send these to me on Twitter at Skating Tripods or via email, adam@bangthebook.com. Happy to answer anything and everything except for politics and some personal things. But, again, you ever have questions, and I'll try to continue this throughout the month of March. And also I'll do the Monday Mailbag when we get to the Bettor's box. So we'll still be able to talk about your thoughts, your listener questions as we go throughout the spring and summer here. And I guess I'll go ahead and answer that because at ChazCorn24 on Twitter asked over the weekend, when is your MLB show making its comeback? Loved it last season, listened to every show. My thought right now is that the Bettor's box will return probably March 21st is going to be my thought. And then I'll just do Thursdays until we finish March Madness. So I'll do March 21st and March 28th with the Bettor's box. And then we'll start the full-fledged Monday, Thursday Bettor's box on April 1st. That would be the day, obviously, of the national championship game in college basketball. But, I don't do the full shows Thursday and Friday of the two March Madness weeks, of the first weekend and also of the Sweet 16 round. So, that would be a good time to transition over to the Bettor's box. So I'm thinking March 21st and March 28th will be editions of the Bettor's box. That is my MLB betting podcast. A lot of great information on those, something I really enjoy doing. And in fact, it's something where I put together all of my notes for the show into a Word document. And if you want, I can put you on the mailing list for those. I did have a mailing list, about 115 strong last year. If you were on that, I'll just start sending you the notes. If you decide you don't want to be on it anymore, or if you want your name added to the list, just hit me up on Twitter @SkatingTripods or email me, adam@bangthebook.com. I will either put you on that list or take you off of that list. But Monday, Thursday is the format for the Bettor's Box. As we go throughout the spring here, we'll have the Masters, we'll have the Kentucky Derby, all the Triple Crown races, the Open Championship. We'll still be doing the UFC previews with Christian Pina. So we'll still have a lot of other content, but with it primarily just being baseball season, that's what we'll mostly talk about. Sometimes I'll do one-off shows with the Tuesday Takeover and stuff like that. But keep it tuned to Bang the Book Radio. Maybe baseball's not your thing. Hopefully I can change your mind with that. But if baseball is your thing or you are interested in baseball, you should definitely enjoy those Bettor's Box segments that will be coming up here over the spring and summer. But again, right now I would say March 21st will be an edition of the Bettor's Box. March 28th, which is obviously opening day, I'll do an edition of the Bettor's Box then as well. Make sure I try to get that one out early. Maybe that's something I'll do Wednesday night into Thursday. Try to get some more lead time on that with a lot of day games for opening day. But in any event, I'll make sure that I cover everything that I possibly can on those Bettor's Box segments and, of course, over at bangthebook.com as well. So that is kind of the framework we're looking at for the baseball stuff here. And again, we'll be posting my baseball content over at bangthebook.com here today. Very, very excited about that. Definitely looking forward to getting some feedback on that type of stuff, and then also, seeing what happens here throughout the month of March. A lot of late free agent signings. We already have some pretty big injuries, including Salvador Perez, Clayton Kershaw, Carlos Martinez. A lot of injury considerations already. So, that's one of the things that's kind of slowed me down a little bit, along with getting sick. But there were just some guys holding the market hostage. And, I didn't really want to go and write a team preview for somebody, and then all of a sudden they signed somebody like Bryce Harper. So a little bit disappointed to be getting the guide out as late as I am, but still well over 3 weeks lead time for all my Major League Baseball stuff. All right, speaking of Major League Baseball, let's go ahead and answer this question here first for the Monday Mailbag. This from longtime listener at MG86 on Twitter, at Mikey Totals, I believe he is, but at MG86 on Twitter is how I know him. Michael Govas is a longtime listener of the show, and he says here, my question is, you mentioned fading Rick Porcello due to last year's numbers. I get why it's done during the season, but why from one year to the next? Would you fade or play on teams based off advanced metrics? Each season is different with new players on teams. If, let's say, Porcello was on the Giants, would you still fade him? Well, being at Oracle Park, formerly known as AT&T Park, would definitely change the expectations I would have for any pitcher. But, when I look at Rick Porcello, last season, a lot of really concerning developments. Fastball velocity was down a little bit. Did go higher usage with the slider, 24% slider usage, which is a reason why his strikeout rate went up. But as I mentioned on last week's show, Rick Porcello posted a career-high K percentage at 23.5%, but his swinging strike rate was only 8.7%. League average for starting pitchers was 10.2% across all of baseball. So there are some advantages here for Porcello. He perennially has one of the higher first pitch strike percentages, which is very good for him. And also, he's a guy that does tend to get a fair amount, probably about an average amount, of swings outside the strike zone. But he's also a guy with a very high zone contact percentage. And a lot of times when you see guys that can't get swings and misses in the strike zone, they do tend to fall off the following year. Porcello looks like one of those guys to me. Again, that swinging strike rate. And in fact, you look at his 2017 season, 4.65 ERA, 4.60 FIP, 4.43 xFIP. Last year, 4.28 ERA, 4.01 FIP, 3.87 xFIP. Last season, his numbers were much better, but his swinging strike rate was even lower last year than it was 2 years ago when he had a tougher go of things. So for me, I look at Porcello, and I don't believe in the profile. I don't believe in the command. I don't believe that the strikeout gains are here to stay. And again, excuse me, as I mentioned, typically when you see a strikeout increase, you see a BABIP increase, batting average on balls in play. The reason for that is because you've got a lower sample size of balls in play, and those are still going to go for hits a pretty reasonable average amount of the time. Well, Porcello in 2017, 324 BABIP against. Last year, 285 BABIP against. So about a 40-point drop there in his batting average on balls in play against to go along with what I believe is an unsustainable strikeout rate. You look at his career average BABIP 306, so he was 21 points off of that. So I would definitely expect his batting average on balls in play to regress. Well, if his strikeout rate regresses and he's giving up more hits on balls in play, that means more runners on base, more balls in play, more chances for things to go awry. So I think Porcello is a guy that does drop off across the board. And, even though it is a different year, even though there's some different personnel and things of that sort, you can still look for these individual outliers for pitchers. Guys that post like a BABIP that's 50 or 60 points off of their career average, you can expect that to regress. I think it's very fair to expect that to come back towards his career norm. That's all I'm doing. I'm a regression analysis handicapper when it comes to baseball. I'm looking to prey on those outliers. Whether I go for or against those outliers, that's dependent on a pitcher-by-pitcher basis and on a team-by-team basis. But those are the things I'm looking for. Porcello also had his lowest home runs allowed per 9 innings, really his second lowest over the last 4 years. I would expect that to regress as well. Even though he's increased the slider usage, I think that there are a lot of areas in which he's going to fall off the map a little bit. So he's a fade guy to me. And I look for these opportunities, and if they don't work out, I have to pivot fairly quickly. But I have a reasonable expectation that Porcello, a guy whose strikeout percentages over the last 4 years, 20.2%, 21.2%, 20.5%, 23.5%. I would expect that to regress based on his past history, based on the profile that he has as a pitcher. So that's really what I'm looking for when it comes to guys I'm looking to fade or follow, or teams I'm looking to fade or follow. And, all of this is done, a lot of this is done based off of the advanced metrics. It's just the style of handicapping that I look to use. As I'll go through my division by division previews here on Bang the Book Radio, I mentioned players I'm looking to fade, pitchers I'm looking to back, stuff like that. And the reason is because I'm seeing outliers from their past performances that I don't think are sustainable. And there are usage changes involved, like Porcello, as I just mentioned, throwing his slider a lot more last season. Maybe it does keep him off the barrel. Maybe it does get him more swings and misses outside of the strike zone. But with the velocity decrease, with what I've seen from him over the course of his career, I can't take that as a sustainable development until I see it. If he does continue to keep that strikeout rate high, I'll pivot. I won't look to back him, but I won't fade him as aggressively as I'm planning to early on in the season here. So, again, you're talking about a guy that's in a tough division for pitchers with a lot of very good offensive park factors. Talking about a guy who I don't think has very good command, so his margin for error is kind of slim. So I talk about a lot of those guys in the MLB betting guide, and I will, as I mentioned, do a follow-up guide here in the month of March, looking at individual pitchers and individual team betting tips to keep in mind over the course of the season, because the guide is more of a year-long overview based on the season win totals. So, again, a lot of baseball coverage coming your way at BangTheBook.com. That's really the important thing here. At 10Jet67 reaches out on Twitter and says, my grandpa was a cop in New York City, big Yankee fan. He's the one that got me interested in betting. I'm just curious how you guys got your start, and I will ask this question as we go throughout the week here to our guests on Bang the Book Radio. As far as me personally, obviously I've always had an interest in sports, and about 2006, 2007 is when I really got my interest in sabermetrics. So the reason I got my start in sabermetrics is because I've been a lifelong Indians fan. I wanted to know why they operated the way that they did, how they operated under their financial constraints. That led me to sabermetrics, so on and so forth. Now I'm at the point that I'm at today. As far as from a betting standpoint, sophomore year roommate in college, had an account on Bodog, and was sort of telling me about it, sort of showing me the ropes a little bit in the business. And, really, I started like a lot of people do, playing the $5 three-line parlays, almost like the parlay cards you can get from locals or whatever else. And, that was something that was a good way to get my feet wet here in the business. And ever since then, I've really evolved in terms of, both my on-air presence and then also with the ways that I've thought about this business. So, started doing this very, very recreationally, around 2007, 2008, and then sort of progressed from there. I would do some betting content for various websites as a freelancer. I would do some stuff for the Cleveland Fan that I used to write for. And then I got hooked up with Beyond the Bets. They had a very good website. A guy named Jeff ran that, and also a very good betting forum. Met actually Parker Michaels on that betting forum. Met a lot of very good people in that forum that I still talk to this day. But I wound up doing a college football podcast with Matt Lindeman for Beyond the Bets. We did that for a couple of seasons, and then he got hired at a sports book and wasn't able to do it anymore. And then at that point in time, that's when my current boss here at Bang the Book found me and asked if I wanted to do something similar for him. And just got to a point where I just gradually increased the volume and increased my workload. So, for those that are interested in this business, maybe want to do what I do, or at the very least, get published somewhere, you got to put in the time. You got to put in the effort. You got to do a lot of shit for free. I mean, that's what I did, with Beyond the Bets. I didn't get paid for the articles I wrote or for the podcast that I was doing, but gave me some exposure, gave me some opportunities, gave me a network, and gave me some connections in this business that really did further my development as a handicapper and as somebody who, analyzes and evaluates this industry on a day-to-day basis. So if you are interested, start a blog, start a podcast, do whatever it is you can do to put your name out there and get yourself, a little bit of a presence out there in what is a quickly changing market. Excuse me. We've got so much going on here in this business that it is hard to carve out a niche. Fortunately, I've been able to do that here with Bang the Book. But, again, it's been a long process. It's been over a decade, and I still feel like I've got a lot to learn here in this business. I know I have a lot to learn in this business. And, it's an ever-evolving business as well. So a lot of things changing. And, I'm sure everybody's story is kind of different for how they wound up getting themselves to the position that they're in right now. And, again, I will ask our guests that here as we go, throughout the week. But, for me, it was a rather humble start in the business, really. A lot of times I just kind of fell ass backwards into things. And I'm very, very lucky. But, also I've put in the time, I've put in the effort, I've put in the volume. And, for anybody that does want to do this seriously or, maybe want to cover it from a media standpoint, something like that, just do something to put yourself out there. Do something to get yourself seen and heard, and also take constructive criticism. I've faced a lot of criticism, growing up as a writer, growing up, in the media side of things. And, some of it is just people that want to bitch and complain. And some of it is people that, have something constructive to say. And you have to be able to separate which is which and then take it to heart if it is constructive. And I think that we've done a lot of good things here with Bang the Book. I've done a lot of good things professionally that, I wouldn't have done if I wasn't so open-minded and if I wasn't, so committed to working hard at this craft. So, in a long story short kind of way, just doing basically $5 three-line parlays, back in college. And that's pretty much how I got my start and how I got interested here in this business. All right, so we take a look at a question here from @SciFlyGuy on Twitter, who is Danny Vorgs, who does a phenomenal job with our NFL power ratings over the course of the NFL season. And obviously a lot of people experiencing NFL withdrawal here at this point in time. Still a long way away from that. But Danny Vorgs, a must-read every week over at BangTheBook.com. And he asked here today for the Monday Mailbag, if you guys have the time, a quick rundown of any value in the NCAA Tournament odds 2 weeks out would be great. Keep up the good work, guys. Obviously, I'll try to touch on this with Kyle Hunter as we come up here with Tuesday and Wednesday segments. But, as I'm looking up and down the board here, it's very hard to try and do something now from an NCAA Tournament standpoint because in a lot of cases, you're going to get better prices once Selection Sunday rolls around and the bracket is decided. Right now, I think it's pretty tough to find some value candidates out there just because we're 2 weeks away from finding out what the draws are going to be for teams. Like I said, you may look at a team right now, let's say an Iowa State or a Kansas State, something like that, sitting in the 40-1 range. Well, after they get their draw for the NCAA tournament, after they're put in a region with Duke, Gonzaga, Virginia, Kentucky, obviously the top 2 seeds that are out there like Tennessee, Michigan State, North Carolina, maybe Nevada's a 2 seed, probably not after the Utah State game. Do they draw some tough number 3s like Purdue, or, where does Houston get ranked, stuff like that? You may find a situation where Iowa or Kansas State 60-1 once the tournament draw comes out. I think right now it's pretty tough to grab and hold any of the positions that are out there. I do think as you kind of look up and down the board here, Cincinnati at 80-1. Offensively, they're always challenged, but defensively, they play a style of play that a lot of teams don't run into during the regular season. Cincinnati is a type of team that, because they slow the game down so much, they ugly it up, it's very, very physical, there are a lot of teams out there that aren't going to want to play that style of basketball. So maybe Cincinnati at 80-1, because they're a little bit different, is the type of team that could give some teams fits. We joke about the Pac-12, and I wouldn't take Washington right now at 80-1 because I think their seeding is going to give them a better price come the NCAA tournament. But, Kyle Hunter talked about that on Friday. Their matchup zone is going to be tough to play against. In this one-and-done format, if, you have a bad shooting performance, you're done. And when you face a zone, you better shoot the ball well. So Washington, if they get into the field, I wouldn't take them now at 80-1, but they're a team I would maybe look at in 2 weeks' time if they get in, and maybe they're 100-1 or 125-1, better time to go out there and take a team like that. So I think right now it's very, very hard to take really any of these teams because we're so close to finding out what the draws are. And overall, I would say that no prices are going to go down. Maybe a Gonzaga or a Virginia or a Kentucky, something like that, based on the 2 seed and the 3 seed that they're paired with, something like that. But a lot of these mid-range prices are not going to go down. They're only going to go up because of the draw. Because once we see who they have to play, what dangerous mid-major they get in the first round, stuff like that, these numbers are probably going to be on the rise. So right now, I don't think there's anything I would invest in. Could you maybe make a case for a Villanova at 45-1? Maybe, because Jay Wright is such a good head coach, and they're so good in the month of March. But, for Villanova, what is their draw? Who are the top seeds that they run into? Well, you got to keep that in mind here, because hedging value is so important when you get to the NCAA tournament that, if you take Villanova at 45 and you could have them at 60 in 2 weeks, that gives you a lot more wiggle room and a lot more equity on that ticket. So for right now, I don't know if there's anybody I would take a look at. Not, at this point in time where, we don't really know what the draw is going to look like. The bubble is pretty weak this year. I don't know if I would take a stab at really anyone, because right now you look at the mid-range prices and it's hard to see teams that are capable of making a run unless you know who they're going to play and who their matchups are going to be against. So that's definitely something I think you want to keep in mind here, is that there's probably not a ton of equity in going out there and buying any of these teams now. The time to do it would have been earlier on, when you could have had some of these teams at 150-1 or 125-1 before they settled in and before they solidified their positions in the NCAA tournament, when they were maybe still kind of a bubble team or a not guaranteed team. Those are the times to hit those teams. Now, at this point in time, 2 weeks until Selection Sunday, I really don't think that that this is the best time of year to look to do something like that. So we'll talk a lot about moneyline rollovers and hedging and things of that sort here as we get closer to March Madness. And, of course, talk about those things for the conference tournaments as well. But for right now, I don't know if there's a whole lot of incentive and a whole lot of value in jumping into the NCAA Tournament Futures Board at this point in time. One thing I can tell you, though, this is a pretty cool development for us here on Bang the Book Radio. For the month of March, we're going to be partnering with PropSwap. Hopefully you know about PropSwap. If you don't, we will have Ian from PropSwap on Bang the Book Radio here a couple of times this month. When it comes to finding value, no matter what time of year it is, price shopping is key. Whether you're buying a car, making a sports bet, you always want to make sure that you're getting the best number. And at PropSwap, you'll find the best numbers on futures, because PropSwap is a marketplace where people buy and sell active sports bets. Last year, thousands of tickets were sold at odds better than any sports book, including one customer who bought a Warriors to win the championship ticket at 2-1 odds. Because at PropSwap, you're buying the bet from another person. Sellers are able to offer you their bet at odds that a sports book would never offer. And in fact, we'll have Ian talk more about this when he comes on the show, but this is something that's legal in a lot of states out there. These are physical tickets, and it's legal in a lot of different states. So you are able to go out there, shop around for some futures tickets, shop around for some prices that are out there. And of course, if you're somebody holding a futures ticket, we talk about hedging all the time. Well, PropSwap allows you the opportunity to do that as well. So start getting the best number by going to PropSwap.com/BTB for Bang the Book. That's PropSwap.com/BTB. Another opportunity for you here from a hedging standpoint to get involved in the futures market with some good prices. And then, of course, and not even just through the month of March, but they always have stuff for Major League Baseball, NFL, college football, all that type of thing. But obviously here in the month of March, with so many futures and tournament futures and things of that sort, PropSwap, a very good opportunity for you. You have PropSwap.com/BTB, and we will get Ian here on the program at least once, probably twice, for either conference tournaments or March Madness. Got one more listener question to talk about here on the Monday Mailbag. This comes from Jeremy via email. I like this question a lot. Something I've noticed is that I've had some success in recent weeks. NCAA basketball road underdogs in the +7 to +10 range. I've had good success overall this year in college basketball, but I've definitely noticed that road dogs in the +7 to +10 range seem to come through quite often. Now, this is obviously an extremely small sample size, perhaps just a good or lucky run, but it seems like there might be something there. So I was wondering if you had any input or had heard of any theory behind this. Maybe those road dogs, getting 7 to 9 points are right in that sweet spot. Well, think about it. College basketball home court advantage, right? Probably ranges from anywhere from 2 to 5, 5.5, maybe 6 points overall. So when you talk about an underdog, it's in a +7 to +10 range. On a neutral site, that's, that dog is +3, +4, something like that. And I think one thing that we have kind of realized here is we've gone through our conference by conference breakdowns on the show this season. Across the board, it feels like college basketball home court advantage is a little bit overrated, is a little bit too baked into the line. I think that's something that we've kind of found as we've gone through conference by conference. So I think when you talk about these road underdogs in the +7 to +10 range, we're mostly talking about 1 or 2 possession games instead of the 3 or 4 possession games that the line would suggest. So I think it does make some sense that dogs in that range wind up being pretty good bets. Of course, that range of +7 to +10, kind of where teams stop following as well. So, you've got maybe some equity with some key numbers in that respect. But I think you probably are onto something here, because I think it's one of those ranges where we can see that home court advantage in college basketball is a little bit overrated. So that actually may end up being something of a sweet spot. You talk about a line that's in the 3 to 5 range, something like that. That's a pick 'em on a neutral with just home court advantage baked into the line. That's a coin flip type of game. In the 7 to 10 range, it's not a full-on coin flip, but the road dogs probably do have a better chance than the line would suggest. So I do think in that type of range, you probably have found a sweet spot, Jeremy. It probably is something I think should continue to work out for you there, at least until we see books start to account for home court advantage a little bit differently. So, okay, if you ever have questions for the Monday Mailbag, you can send them to me on Twitter @SkatingTripods or email me, adam@bangthebook.com. Again, Major League Baseball will be starting here probably March 21st on Bang the Book Radio. MLB stuff getting posted over at bangthebook.com today. Conference tournaments as odds keep coming out. Again, make sure you check out that PropSwap.com/BTB link. See if there are some futures tickets that you want to look to invest in, or maybe some that you do want to sell as the month of March goes on.